Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Oluchi. Oluchi is an 18-year-old girl from the eastern part of Nigeria. She grew up in a very poor home. Her family could barely afford food. After her father, a retired teacher, died unexpectedly, the responsibility of taking care of 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, fell on her mother. Oluchi, being the eldest, did everything she could to help, and somehow she managed to finish secondary school. Oluchi had a close friend, Jennifer, who helped her with used clothes, shoes, and sometimes money. They were like sisters. One day, a wealthy and plump aunt from Oluchi's family visited the village. Nobody knew much about her business, but she was known to be rich and would visit occasionally to pick girls from the village to take to the city for a better life. She was unmarried and had no children. When she visited Oluchi's family, she was shocked by their condition and decided to help. After a discussion, Oluchi's mother suggested that she take Oluchi to the city for a better future. The aunt agreed and promised to return in 2 days to pick her up. Oluchi shared the news with Jennifer, who was happy for her and even helped her pack, giving her some of her own clothes. 2 days later, the aunt returned, and Oluchi left for the city. Upon arrival in the city, Oluchi was amazed by the tall skyscrapers, beautiful roads, and busy people. When they arrived at her aunt's mansion, Oluchi was dazed. The house seemed too big for her. As she stepped inside, she saw girls in skimpy clothes with heavy makeup coming and going. Her aunt was running a prostitution ring known as a shawo, where women slept with men for money. The aunt immediately told Oluchi what she did and insisted that if Oluchi wanted to help her family, she would have to prepare herself for the same business. Oluchi, thinking of her mother and siblings in the village, reluctantly agreed. Her aunt's girls took her shopping, and within hours, Oluchi had a complete makeover. That night, a rich client named Ademola called, and Oluchi was prepared for him. He sent a Range Rover to pick her up. As she rode to the client's house, she felt confused and anxious. She had no idea what would happen but decided not to think too much about it. When she arrived at the mansion, she was taken to a beautiful sitting room and then upstairs. Ademola, the man who had hired her, instructed her to take a shower and wear a bathrobe. After a bath, Oluchi, now dressed in a white bathrobe, came back downstairs. Ademola was impressed by her beauty but reminded himself that she was a prostitute. He was on phone having a business discussion and sounded frustrated over a calculation issues that his company was having. Oluchi overheard and gently gave Ademola the answer to the seemingly frustrating question. He was impressed and surprised at the same time, wondering how a brilliant and smart girl was involved in such a trade. Oluchi, reading his mind, revealed that this was her first time. Ademola was intrigued by how intelligent she was and wanted to know her better. He started asking for her only from Auntie, who now became suspicious of the frequency with which Ademola asked of Oluchi. She brushed it aside but happy that Ademola was paying more just to see Oluchi more often. All this while he had never touched or made a move on her. He made sure that Auntie didn't give her out to any other client, making her his special girl. One day, Ademola sent his driver with a red gown, that Oluchi should wear it to see him. She dressed up in the red gown and hopped into the Range Rover. This time the driver didn't take her to Ademola's house but to a fancy restaurant where he made a reservation for 2. When she walked into the restaurant, he was already waiting for her. Sighting her from afar, he stood and gave her a warm hug. He complimented her appearance and she thanked him. They were served with champagne. They started talking and Ademola asked Oluchi about her plans. She told him she wanted to raise enough money either to go back to school or start a business. However, Ademola had other plans. He wanted to help her get a better life abroad. He told her of his plans for her to travel abroad to get a better life. She was over the moon with joy. But he warned her not to let her auntie know about it till everything has worked out. He took her to the immigration office, arranged for her passport, and secretly got her visa ready without the aunt's knowledge. Oluchi kept her family in touch with Jennifer and her family, updating them on her progress. When Oluchi finally told her aunt about her trip abroad, the aunt, surprisingly, was happy for her. She even prayed for her success. The day of departure arrived, and Ademola escorted Oluchi to the airport. He promised to support her, and Oluchi boarded the plane, eager for a fresh start. Upon arrival at her destination, Oluchi was met by a woman named Anita, who took her to a modest house. She was given a beautifully decorated room and was told to rest. The next day, Oluchi began her new job at a supermarket. Life wasn't easy though. She had to take on an additional cleaning job at a hospital to make ends meet. As Oluchi settled into her new life, she sent money to Jennifer to give to her family back home. Oluchi sent huge sums of money for family and some for Jennifer herself. However, Jennifer only gave Oluchi's mother stipend, keeping the rest for herself. Unbeknownst to Oluchi, Jennifer had been using the money for herself and was even living lavishly. Oluchi continued to send money back home, but nothing changed. Her mother fell ill and became blind, and her siblings were still not going to school. Jennifer had bought a Benz and was living a life of luxury, while Oluchi's family was still struggling. Oluchi even sent money for a plot of land, and also continued to send more for the building project. Jennifer, on the other hand, kept sending her pictures of the building till it was completed. She was happy, not knowing that a day will come that will end her stay abroad. One day, a colleague committed a crime and implicated Oluchi. She was found guilty and was deported back to Nigeria. She arrived back to Nigeria at the age of 25. No money, no savings, as she had sent everything to Jennifer with the hope that her family was doing okay, which was the most important to her. She went straight to Ademola's house. He welcomed her with open arms. She explained what had happened, and he was sympathetic. Ademola asked what her next plan was, and Oluchi said she wanted to visit her family and to also see Jennifer, who she had given a lot of money to save for her, and to also build a house for her. Ademola agreed to her plan. When Oluchi arrived at her family's house, she was shocked to see that nothing had changed. Things were worse than when she had left. Her mother was blind, her siblings weren't in school, and the house she thought was built for her was nowhere to be seen. When she asked about Jennifer, her mum told her that Jennifer was now driving a big car and living in a mansion. Oluchi, heartbroken and confused, set out to find Jennifer. Oluchi found Jennifer at a street corner seating in her Benz with some friends. Jennifer was shocked to see Oluchi, but she composed herself. Oluchi, devastated by the betrayal, dragged Jennifer to a corner while confronting her. She asked why Jennifer had kept the money she sent to her family. Jennifer had no answer, but she tried to avoid the situation. Oluchi insisted that Jennifer take her to the house she had built with her money. Jennifer reluctantly took Oluchi to her house. Upon arriving, Oluchi looked around, turned to Jennifer demanding for the house papers. Jennifer handed them over, and to Oluchi's surprise, the house papers were in Jennifer's name. Jennifer laughed and told Oluchi to leave her house. Oluchi stood in her ground and said, "Jennifer, I thought you were my friend. I trusted you with my life. Why would you betray me like this?" Jennifer laughed mockingly. Oluchi, now furious, said, "Listen, Jennifer. You cannot eat my sweat and get away with it." Jennifer continued to laugh and said, "Oluchi, get your proof that this house is yours. You think I'm your babysitter? How much did you pay me to look after your family?" Oluchi, devastated, called Ademola, who told her to calm down. She explained that she needed to get everything Jennifer had taken from her. As this was happening, Jennifer was living her life spending on clothes, buying things she doesn't need, and clubbing. It was at the club that she met a handsome, dark-looking man, Mike. One thing led to another and they started dating. Jennifer fell in love because Mike was romantic and knew how to treat a woman. He sends flowers to her every morning, pulls her, buys her gifts and take her on a romantic dates. She fell in love and soon they became inseparable. But there was a lot about Mike she doesn't know. All she knew was that he's a businessman who just moved into town. She was not bothered about that, as Mike was everything she wanted in a man. Soon Mike started making little demands, claiming his contracts are eating up all his savings. Not minding Jennifer would give him, he kept making more demands, and when Jennifer tries to question him, He would tell her not worry, he would get it from elsewhere. Afraid to lose him, she would just give him the money. While she was busy spending on Mike, Oluchi was devastated as she doesn't have any evidence to get her money and property from Jennifer. She can't get all of her things without evidence. Life was going good for Jennifer. Until one night Mike sat up unable to sleep. Jennifer woke up and Mike was not sleeping beside her. Wondering where he went, she went to the sitting room and saw him at the minibar looking worried. As Mike now lives with Jennifer in Oluchi's house, or let's say the house she built with Oluchi's money, she asked him what the problem was. He said she should not bother. That triggered her to keep asking. He said his bidding for contract worth billions of naira, and he was asked to bring 500 million naira, or he will lose the contract. She was quiet and didn't know how to get such money. Jennifer told him she doesn't have such amount, but he suggests she use the house as a collateral to get loan from the bank. This made her to frown, making him to ask her the question she dreaded. Is the house not your own? She responded, faking a smile, that the house issue was complicated. This response made him more inquisitive. He wanted to know more about her, but she didn't want to say more. He placed her arms around her waist, reminding her that she can trust him with anything. She looked at him with doubt on her face, but decided to trust him. She opened up to him on how her friend Oluchi had sent huge sums of money for her to give her family, and to also build a house for her, but she didn't give Oluchi's family any money. Neither did she give her the house. Mike was shocked but kept his cool. He asked where the house is, and she said that this house they live in is Oluchi's house, and the car and all the money she had been spending. Mike hugged her and said, "Your secret is safe with me." One evening, while Jennifer and Mike were having lunch, there was a knock at the door. When Mike opened it, the police entered, and Oluchi followed them. They asked for Miss Jennifer. Mike called out to her that she is needed by the police. Jennifer came to the door, surprised to see Oluchi. She laughed and asked what she is doing with the police in her. Oluchi responded that she has came to claim all that Jennifer took from her. Jennifer gave a sarcastic smile and asked Oluchi to bring her evidence. If not, she should get out of her house. On hearing this, Oluchi dipped her hands into her handbag and brought out a recorder and played it to the hearing of all present. Talking in the recorder is Jennifer confessing to the property being Oluchi's, car and all the money she is being spending. Jennifer, realizing who betrayed her, turned toward Mike with an angry look. She charged towards him shouting, "You bastard! I trusted you!" But before she could attack him, she was stopped by the police, who arrested her. Now it turned out that Mike is Ademola, the man who has helped her from the beginning. He disguised as Mike to help her get proof so Oluchi can get her property and money back. When he asked Oluchi what she wanted from him and how he could help her, she said all she wanted was to get all that belongs to her. He then volunteered to help by disguising as Mike, the new businessman in town. Jennifer was charged to court, and all that belonged to Oluchi was given to her. Beware of evil friends.